Ma'am, what initiatives will you put in place in order to better educate and train persons who live in rural parts of the state to assist them in finding jobs in more metropolitan areas, whether those jobs be in person or remote?
Well, I think we should set up an apprentice program. I mean, Trump talked about that. You know, companies are willing to take young people from high school even and teach them. And that's the best way to learn. Sometimes you won't learn in college what you can learn with a company. So I believe that we can, teach our children, empower them, give them the confidence. And, from the rural areas, of course, it's a question of transportation. They're coming into the city. They're probably having to drive a lot more. But it's a great experience, and that's the way to bring them through that and at a different level. There's nothing that's going to replace hands-on education. They're going to learn from their mentor, their leader, and it's how we build, successful people. And also vocational. I always tell kids, I don't care what job you take, you know what? Start. We got to empower these kids. We got to get back to the schools. There's no shame taking a job at McDonald's or with a carpenter, cleaning up after him. No, we have to tell the kids, you know what you're going to learn? Look, think, see what you learned from the person you're working with. That's what I always did, and I think that's what we need to bring back.
Thank you. Kendra Wilson.
Thank you, Chris. Your question assumed that a lot of people in the rural areas want to move into the urban areas, and as I have traveled around the state, that's not always the case.
Well,
but
the question didn't suppose that because many persons could work remotely as well. Navo wanted to direct this question to the candidates because a lot of small businesses, women-owned businesses, have trouble staffing. So we wanted to design the question to tailor it to how can we bring talent from rural areas, train them, educate them, working remotely or in person to serve companies that might be in more in the cities.
So one of the biggest impediments to education throughout the rural parts of our state is broadband connectivity. We learned during COVID that many areas in Arizona do not have access to broadband that we take for granted here in the urban areas. So that's the first thing we need to do, is to make sure everybody has access to the internet so that they can learn remotely and work remotely. So that would be priority number one. I am a huge supporter of the career and technical education programs, and I would support the expansion of that throughout the state, whether it's in urban areas or rural areas. I am also a huge advocate for school choice. I have been for decades now, having served on a school board starting 18 years ago. And I'm a fan and supporter of legislation that was just dropped yesterday by Ben Toma that will allow every parent to choose exactly what type of education they want for their child. And that's very important in the rural areas. The one-size-fits-all education program of the past is a relic of the past. We now, because of technology, have the ability to deliver education anywhere, so long as we have that broadband connectivity. And that's why broadband is so critical to allow real choice in educational opportunities. And so I think the very first thing we will do is make sure that we build out that broadband system in Arizona. There's a lot of good efforts underway, but there's a lot more work to do. The government and the private sector are working very hard on that because of the need. But that will allow us to deliver educational opportunities and workforce training opportunities all across the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Simon.
I started out my career in telecommunications, and I was the president of a telecommunications trade association on the East Coast. And I think we learned during COVID that people can work remotely and just about work anywhere. And so I completely agree with what Karen just said. The top priority for rural Arizona is to make sure that they have access as quickly as possible to the highest speed internet that they can possibly get. And I intend to do everything I can to make that happen. But they're also really frustrated that the Arizona Commerce Authority doesn't really focus on rural Arizona much. They focus really mostly on Maricopa County and a little bit on Pima County. And they're really frustrated because they feel like, the unwanted stepchildren. And we've got to do a lot better job using the Department of Commerce to bring jobs there. But I also believe that these kids that live in rural Arizona, they need access to top quality education. And I also believe that vocational education is incredibly important. But also P20, higher education in community colleges and universities and trade schools, and the rural areas don't have nearly as much access. We've got to make sure that they have the access to the top quality education so they can progress like we do in the urban areas.
Thank you.
I think we need to carve sections out of the community colleges and the state colleges out of the budget to create vocational and trade schools, because that is the number one thing in the United States we're lacking right now. And despite popular belief, a lot of the illegal aliens that do a lot of the work in this state and in this country, the trade skilled jobs that we taught them to do 30 years ago, a lot of those gentlemen are getting old now. I know, because I work on certain job sites. I don't hire them, but I have to work side by side with them often. They're getting old. Their kids are born in the United States. They also don't want to do these trades. We need to inspire people to not believe that working in a trade is a bad thing. I've been working in trades all my life. Don't get me wrong. I can build websites. I can market them online. Search engine optimization, search engine marketing. I can tear a computer down to the ground and build it right back up. But what I did as a kid was come up in the trades. But I also came up when computers were coming up. So I got to be lucky enough to learn both tech and trade at the same time. That's not something that's happening anymore. And we have the language barrier because a lot of the illegal aliens don't speak English, and a lot of them don't want to train the American people how to do their trades, and a lot of their kids don't want to learn how to do their trades. So I think inspiration is number one. We need to inspire the youth that working in a hard trade skilled job is not a bad thing, and you can go to a trade school for about $20,000, and about 2 years later you're out of it making $100,000 a year, hands down. That's great money, and that's better than what you make at GoDaddy. That's better than what you make at Google. I mean, why not go for a trade job? You can make what Carrie Lake made being a news anchor, just being a trade guy doing electrician work. I mean, that's great. This is a great idea. And then you could run for the governor of Arizona, which is what I'm doing. So.
Thank you. Senator Lopez.
Thank you. How many of you went to the University of Arizona? Thank you. I'm a Wildcat too. But not everyone and every kid wants to go to the university, whether it's the U of A, ASU, or NAU. Just like my dad. My dad was a plumber by trade. That's what gave us the opportunity to succeed in this great state. And so that's why my budget, Education First, that we released a month ago, invests $150 million in vocational training, in apprenticeships, and in certification programs. Because the new technology allows us to have lifelong learners in our state, and really around the world. Our challenge, as has been addressed, is how do we get the technology to each one of our 15 counties and 22 tribes? I have a little bit of experience in that, as I mentioned. We've now connected through Connect to Compete 1 million homes in the US, 30,000 of them here, many of them in rural Arizona. I'm a product of rural Arizona. I just happened to move up here to Phoenix in 2004. But the reality is that those hopes, those dreams, those desires still exist for families across our state to want to have opportunities in their own home. I see it with my friends from Nogales. Once they move to Tucson or Phoenix, they will likely never go back because of a lack of opportunities, a lack of business opportunities in their hometown. And so I don't think we need to be in a rush to get people to the big cities. I think rural Arizona life is great. And so we've got to make sure that we're investing in programs that allows them the opportunity to succeed wherever they want, in each one of our 22 tribes, for example, so that those kids know that the promise and the dream of Arizona is available to them just like it's available to someone living in Paradise Valley. It should not matter where they grow up. And that's what I'm committed to. Thank you.
Are we going to have a question on education? Otherwise, I will go into education now.
That comes next.
Okay, good. Then I'll work on. We do a lot to attract businesses to Arizona, and a lot of businesses want to come here without us working to attract them. But when we find a business that wants to come to Arizona, if we can get that business and that will work out for them to move to a smaller community, and I'm talking maybe a Payson or even in the White Mountains or the Williams area, the impact of that is massive. a 300-person job facility that's going to hire 300 people in the White Mountains or in Prescott is a huge economic impact. Versus, it would be almost the equivalent of maybe more than 3,000 coming to the Valley. So we need to encourage companies who are looking and inquiring about relocating or starting up in Arizona to consider some of our smaller communities. And I think they'll be happier there in some ways. I grew up in a small community in a rural part of Iowa, and I think the hardest working people come from our ag community, our farm community, and our small towns. And so, I'm a big believer you get 16 hours of work in an 8-hour day from somebody who's from the agriculture community. They work very hard. As a matter of fact, when I'm governor, I plan to fill the governor's office and the state with farm kids, because we know we're going to get a lot of work out of them and they will finish the job and do it right. So I think we need to work at attracting companies and showcasing our smaller communities. Frankly, if I could live in a smaller community, I would in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, the government is all here in Phoenix, and we need to maybe look at moving it around a little bit so that it isn't all here. But the impact on the state of helping our rural communities is going to be felt. Right now, they're not even on the back burner. I like to say the government has treated our rural communities and small communities, they're not even on the stove, frankly. So let's move them back on the stove. Every week when I'm in the governor's office, we're going to look at what we are actively doing to help our small communities and our rural communities. And one of the things we'll be doing is trying to attract businesses to relocate there if it's feasible.